And notice that we're live streaming this meeting, and we'll have our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Lanark County is situated on unceded traditional territory of several First Nations people. We are grateful for the many opportunities that this privilege has afforded us. We'll now have the singing of O Canada. Now a moment of silent meditation. Thank you. Roll call.
Councillor McLaren,
Present.
Councillor King,
Present.
almost there. Councillor Lowry,
Present.
Councillor Manelli,
Here.
Councillor Carroll,
Present.
Councillor Jennings,
Present.
Councillor Brown,
Present.
Councillor McPherson, Councillor Doby,
Present.
Counselor Rayner,
Present.
Counselor Dowdle,
Present.
Counselor Randall,
Present.
Counselor Tennant,
Present.
Counselor Fournier,
Present.
Counselor Maston,
Present.
Warden Kidd.
Present. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Now we're at the time. Approval of the minutes. Andrew,
Motion CC 2026-109 that the minutes of the Lanark County Council meeting held on August 26, 2026 be approved as circulated. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Randall.
are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Approval of the agenda. Councillor Dowdle,
Motion number CC 2026 110 that the agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Toby Randall.
okay. Toby,
Thank you. I would like to propose that we amend the agenda to remove item 15.2, which is the childcare wait list priority placement policy, defer it to the next council meeting so that county staff and municipal staff can have some further conversation.
so this isn't what we were doing, right?
Yeah, you can still remove the bylaw, and then you just have to remove the report. item as
Okay.
well.
Okay, so we're just removing the bylaw,
Correct.
okay? Second by Andrew. This will become clearer when the report comes up, but it's just putting it off for 1 month. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. To accept. Right. So Brian, do you have the amended motion then? Amended agenda motion? You're moving the agenda as amended.
I move that the motion be adopted as amended. I don't have to read that through, do you? Or should I? Motion CC.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Reports. Councilor Manelli,
To the members of the Lanark County Council, we, the members of your Community Service Committee of the whole, beg leave to report Section A to be received as information and Section B as follows. B3, SS 11/2026, Active Kids Bright Futures Policy. No, motion number CS 2026-44 that Lanark County Council approve social service policy 55-16-1 Active Kids Bright Futures effective September 1st, 2026. B4, motion CS 2026-45 that Lanark County Council adopt the following childcare waitlist priorities for seawall enrollment centers. Siblings of children currently enrolled in the center. Licensees currently below the feed subsidy minimum percentage are to fill in 1 of every 5 vacancies with a child eligible for fee subsidy until the established minimum is met. The minimum percentage is calculated by Lanark County's annual contractual fee subsidy target pound of children divided by total license capacity for all children's times 100 plus 2%. Children of the registered early childhood educators that are employed at any seawall enrollment licensed child care center in Lanark County. Licensees may submit a written request to the service manager for priority placement that falls outside the established policy criteria, and all remaining placements to be determined by the order in which a complete of application was received. Motion CS 2026-50, the council approved the entering into a new service agreement with Five Arches Nonprofit Housing based on the negotiating terms outlined in the report, SS 13/2026. All of which is respectfully submitted by myself, Chair Rick Manelli.
Thank you, Rick. Is there anything you'd like to pull? Toby?
I'd like to pull B4, please.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so we'll deal with the B4 first.
So would like to pull the B4 and defer it so that, as I stated in the original amended agenda, so that county staff can have further discussions with the municipal staff with regards to a few of the items within that policy. Thank you.
So to do that, you're making that a motion.
I am.
Andrew, seconding it? Any discussion? Rick, do you have any discussion?
No.
You realize this means you have to read that whole motion again?
Yeah, I'll have to read it next week.
Just like you know now. All right, all those in favor of deferring the motion? Carried, thank you. Do you have a mover and a seconder for the report as a whole?
Seconded by Krista Lowry. And moved by myself.
Thank you. All those in favor of the report as a whole? Carried. Tobe? Councillor Randall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the members of Lanark County Council, we, the members of the Corporate Services Committee of the whole, beg leave to report Section A to be received as information and Section B as follows. B1, Heads and Beds Payment in Lieu of Taxes Program Municipal Collaboration Opportunity. Motion CP 2026-49 that Lanark County support the Heads and Beds Payment in Lieu of Taxes Program Municipal Collaboration Opportunity. Motion from the town of Petanguishene and also the municipality of South Huron. Motion CP 2026-53 that the updated video surveillance policy be approved by council and that the clerk be directed to place a bylaw on the agenda at an upcoming council meeting for approval. Motion CP 2026-54 that council approve the updated user fee and charges bylaw as attached and that the bylaw be placed on an upcoming agenda for final approval. All of which is respectfully submitted by myself, Toby Randall, Chair.
Is there anything we want to pull out or discuss separately and vote on separately? Seeing none, do you have a mover and seconder?
Sorry, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tennant.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor McLaren? Wait a minute. Sean, are you giving a report first?
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is for council's approval to award the supply and delivery of salt to Compass Minerals. So the RFP was the RFT was posted on bids and tenders on July 20th. It closed on August 5th. Our previous contract was with Cargill Salt that was awarded in 2021 it was a 3-year contract that we extended for 2 additional years, and the latest at a latest rate of $106 per ton. This new contract was advertised as a 1-year with available extensions. Also, participating municipalities agreed to purchase a minimum of 80% of their annual quantity in an effort to increase competitive bidding. This is a standard practice everywhere except Ontario. And we're bringing this directly to the council so that we can expedite the award and start our delivery so we can start mixing our winter sand, and that the other participating municipalities can proceed with awarding their contracts as well. So we only did receive one bid at a price of $174 a ton, so which is a 63% increase from our previous price. Cargill and Windsor Salt, the two other major salt suppliers in Ontario, did not submit bids. We did contact them and confirm that they didn't have the capacity to supply our contracts due to the historic salt shortage from last year. Typically, these companies rely on their carryover quantities at their terminals to keep their contracts going, so they were unable to enter into any new contracts. I have included the historical salt usage in as attachment 1. So the large price increase is due to the fact that Compass has to import the salt from overseas. We wouldn't receive that imported salt. That salt would just go to Montreal, and then the Goderich salt that would have gone to Montreal will come to us. So save them shipping back the same way twice. So further discussions, we were going to discuss this at the last council meeting, but we met with Compass, and Compass is confident that they could enter into a 5-year contract with us, so we could secure a long-term reliable salt supply. Over the 5 years, they would distribute that cost, the additional cost this year of importing the salt from overseas. They would distribute that additional cost over 5 years, reducing this year's price. And so the option there is up on the screen there for a 5-year contract. So the other option compared to that is a 1-year contract at the $174 rate. So for this option to be most cost effective, we would have to achieve a unit rate of $134 a ton or less for the remaining, on average, for the remaining for the next 4 years after this year. Note that those rates are based on the entire quantity for all municipalities contributing. So there's just a couple notes, with the ever-changing climate, there is probably expectations that this shortages could happen again with the further increased storm events. The storm events aren't necessarily worse events in all, it's just the number of events have increased. So by securing a good long-term supply, we can reduce the impacts of those future shortages. So there's the 3 options. The third option is to reissue the tender in an effort to get more pricing, but after consultation with the other 2 major suppliers, they most likely wouldn't bid, and potentially we could lose our only bid that we have. Our budget overall is not looking too bad because of that salt shortage supply. In this earlier year, we didn't purchase that much salt because it wasn't available. So we do have quite a bit of budget. So we're not concerned about any budget implications for either option for this year. As I mentioned, all the lower tiers that are participating, which is every municipality except the town of Perth, they're already under a separate contract with Compass, was included in this tender. They were all provided the results and the contract options. All the public works managers have agreed to recommend the 5-year contract, except with the exception of Carleton Place. When it comes to climate impact, we're going to continue. We do have controllers on our plows that are calibrated to ensure we're putting out the exact optimum salt content, sand content on the roads. We'll continue to monitor the weather and do best practices to minimize the amount of salt that we put on the roads while meeting the maintenance standards. So the recommendation is to proceed with the 5-year contract due to the uncertainty around the future market. The increase for salt demand with the more frequent events. It is the salt, a lot of the salt, although Compass is a Canadian company, the other mines are located in the United States, so securing a long-term deal is recommended that we can provide proper maintenance on our roads.
Okay, are there any questions of Sean? Andrew?
Thanks, Sean. So I had a conversation with Guy, our Public Works Director, a few days ago, and he was under the impression that he thought we could get a better price. I'm sure you've spoken to him about this already. I just want to clarify. So at this point, is Carlton Place involved in this purchase or not?
Yeah, so either way, Carlton Place can either sign a 1-year contract separate or continue or enter into a 5-year contract. So
Okay, so
Carlton Place is guaranteed a salt supply for the year. It's just whether or not they want to do a 5-year or 1-year.
okay, and the reason I'm asking is I was going to speak to Guy today and I didn't, and I didn't catch his latest. So that we're not actually tonight voting on whether or not Carlton Place is going to be a part of this.
No.
This is just whether we want the pricing structure and that's it.
This is for
Okay.
the county and then Carlton Place Council.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Carlton is just a small part of the county, so it doesn't really.
I would, if I could add though, if Crown Place opts for a 1-year contract and the rest of the county does a 5, moving forward, Crown Place would be forced to re-tender on their own with a significant smaller quantity, so it'd be harder to get it as competitive.
But you still have the option.
For sure, yeah.
Brian?
Just curious, does Canada have, or have they already had a supply of salt? You see all the salt as you fly over Western provinces, whatever, and I know nothing but salt.
Cartridge.
They're all basically pulling from the same source, which is under the Great Lakes. They're just all situated in different areas along the Great Lakes.
It's the biggest mine in the world, isn't it?
The Goddard mine from Compass is the largest salt mine in the world.
There's different ways of looking at it. The last contract was for 3 years and then we extended it 2 years more. So it was really a 5-year contract. And the other thing is, the amount that it goes up, we have to take 80%.
Yeah.
So if somehow we could find a savings in use, that saves us money too. Like we have 20% to play with in usage of tons.
Yeah.
That if we can find a conservative way of doing that, we could get the budget number back down. Okay. Judy?
Yes, thank you. So the reason that there was a shortage of salt was because we had more of the precipitation was as ice than as snow. So with climate change, as the climate, the temperature continues to rise, what happens if we get, several ice storms and only a couple of snowstorms? Would there be enough? And if not, can the supplier send us more?
So having the 5-year contract will ensure they're contractually obligated to provide us that. And because if we didn't have that and we are in a situation like this where we're trying to go into a new contract after a shortage, we're going to find ourselves again looking at really high prices if we get a bid. I know there are some other local municipal tenders that have closed that have got 0 bids. So we're definitely fortunate that Compass is willing to go overseas to keep us going for this year. And then they're committed to, all the suppliers are committed to try to maintain their existing contracts. So if we get in on a contract, then again, Compass would be working to maintain our quantities, and we'd obviously we do have priority use over commercial contractors as well. All the major suppliers prioritize municipalities over serving commercial companies. So ideally, we get into a long-term contract, a 5-year contract, and then we'll be set.
Okay,
Just want to clear up any misconception about Montague using an excessive amount of salt. Can you just explain like how like
Yeah.
it's sold back to the like?
Yeah, so Montague salt quantity is almost 50% of that the county uses, because we do have a route out of the Montague's yard.
Yeah. So just want to make sure that people don't think that Montague's a salt heavy place. So it's yeah, we love our salt at Montague. So it's thanks, Kurt. Yeah, the other one I'm just going to ask that sort of that out in left field question, because we know like out in Alberta they use different. Is there any ever that discussion about using or trying to find different alternatives than salt, or is it like that's just not the direction at all?
Yeah, there's nothing out there that's locally sourced, affordable, and proven right now that we could use to replace salt. We did find ways to reduce our salt usage last year, and we'll continue to do that. We'll be examining all our application rates we put on the road. We're going to be using more of a winter mix, because our standards are set well above minimum maintenance standards. So we do have some playroom to reduce salt usage and still meet the maintenance standards.
Thank you for that.
okay, if there's no further questions, Peter, you have a motion?
Moved by myself, second by Bill King, motion CC 2026-113, the council award contract PWM 69 26 E4 supply and delivery of bulk course highway salt Schedule A, Lanark County, to the lowest compliant bidder, Compass Minerals, and that council award a 5-year contract as shown in option 2 of the report PW 18 2026.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. We have bylaws. And Karen?
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Carroll, motion CC 2026-114, that County Council has given the following bylaws the first, second, and third reading, passed and signed by the Warden and Clerk. Bylaw number 2026-25, Active Kids, Bright Futures Policy. Bylaw number 2026-27, Video Surveillance Policy. Bylaw number 2026-28, User Fees and Charges Bylaw.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Confirmatory, Fred, do you have this?
Yep. Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Rayner, motion number CC 2026-115. That bylaw 2026-29 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on August 26, 2026. Be read a first, second, and third time short, or first and second, third time, and passed and signed by the Warden and Clerk.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Just before we adjourn, I'd like to thank all those that participated in the Warden's Golf Tournament. We had a little bit of a shower, but a good day, and sold off the Beckwith pair for a good price, and raised some money for Active Kids, Bright Futures. Also, like special thanks for Brian. He always goes out and gets extra door prizes for us, which raises money, and thank you for doing that, Brian. Also at AMO, I think those that participated in the delegations, we had good delegations, and the conference was very well. It was a good conference. Our reception, I think those that were there would all agree that it went very well, and certainly I think Toby and I were discussing at least 7 members, provincial members were there, if not 8. I think 8. and chair of the Eastern Ontario Wardens, chair of Roma, chair of AMO. We're all there, so it's a great, and our friend Sabine stopped me in the hall the next day to tell me what a great thing that was for Lanark County to do as far as promoting Lanark County within the province, and made a point of saying that. That was a good thing. So anyways, thank you for all those who participated, and the governance committee will be getting to get together next month just to review it and make some changes for next year, or recommendations while it's fresh in our minds. So I don't think there's any media interviews. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Toby, second by John. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Into it, I'd like to call this Public Works meeting to order. If anybody has any disclosure of peculiar interest, you can do so now or at the time of the item. Looking for the approval of the minutes. We had a meeting on June 24th, 2026. The suggested motion of the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting held on June 24th, 2026 be approved as circulated. Looking for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Jennings, and second by Councillor Carroll. Any discussion before we call the vote? All in favor? That's carried. Tonight's agenda, suggested motion that the agenda for tonight be approved as presented. Looking for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Doby and Councillor Matheson. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have two delegations tonight. The first one is the Highway 15 at Perth intersection improvements update at Franktown. And we have David Gallimore online, I believe. And we'll have a time for questions after the presentations. David, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Would you like me to share my screen, Megan, so I can control the slide, or?
Yep, that'd be good. We have it up here, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Just inform.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for fitting our presentation in today's meeting. I'm here this evening to give an update on the MTO preliminary design and class environmental assessment study for improvements to the Highway 15 and Perth Road intersection in Franktown, Ontario. Next slide, please. My name is Dave Gallimore, and I'm the project manager for the study. I'm with WSP Canada. On the line from WSP project team, we also have Banaz Backett, our senior environmental planner, Carmen Lapointe, project director, and Scott Fortner, our traffic specialist. We also have the MTO project manager, Terita Ditchke. She's the incoming project manager from MTO. And we also have the outgoing MTO project manager, Joanna Zhang. As you may remember, I provided an initial presentation on this project last spring. Since then, we've developed the preferred alternative and taken that to the public as part of a public information center. So I'm here today to provide a brief update and present the PIC materials and feedback, including the preferred alternative. As a side note, this project is separate and distinct from the Highway 15 resurfacing contract that's currently under construction and ends just north of the intersection in question. Yeah, next slide. In terms of the EA process, as mentioned, we have developed the preferred alternative and provided a second PIC back in June to present the study outcome to the public. The first PIC for the initial study and the alternatives was held back in May of 2025. Project team is now working towards preparing a transportation environmental study report to document the study, its findings and recommendations. Once the tester is filed and approved, we'll move towards detailed design, which involves more public input, and eventually tendering for construction. Next slide.
So PIC, the initial PIC was held in the spring of last year. It provided an overview of the study and displayed a long list of alternatives, including a mix of signalized intersections, highway realignments, roundabouts, excuse me, and which of those alternatives were to be carried forward to the shortlist and evaluated further. We had about 46 people attend. We received about 28 comments, both from the website and the PIC itself. People's main concerns revolved around the safety of the intersection and the speed and sight lines through the area while trying to turn onto Highway 15 from Perth, as well as property and access impacts. Most of the comments received were of general interest in the study and some preferences on the alternatives. The overall consensus was that the current intersection is an issue for the public and they're happy that something's being done. Next slide. The second PIC we just had back in June. It presented the preferred alternative and the reasoning behind it. We had about 37 attendees and 8 comments were provided. The public's main concerns, once again, were the safety of the intersection, property impacts, and project timeline. A lot of the feedback was positive. People were generally in agreement with the proposed solution. Next slide. As part of the study, various environmental reports are prepared with findings documented and summarized in the TESR. Various elements range from terrestrial ecosystems to cultural heritage to landscaping. They've all been assessed as part of this study and will be documented in the TESR. Next slide. As part of both PICs, we presented some of the existing natural environmental conditions. The main items of note are potential for tree roosting bats in the area, which are a species at risk, and chimney swifts, which are a threatened species. There's also some large mature trees in the area, as well as noxious weeds. Next slide. In terms of the evaluation process, it involves breaking down the various criteria into categories and assigning them a weighting factor that best reflects the level of their impact and importance. And then using these criteria to compare the relative strengths and weaknesses of each of the alternatives. And of course, the alternative that best addresses the project's objectives while minimizing impacts is the one that we carried forward as a preferred alternative. I'll get into shortly. Next slide. The main overall criteria considered were natural environment, cultural environment, socioeconomic environment, and transportation. Subfactors for these criteria were reviewed and compared individually across all alternatives. Some samples involve impacts to terrestrial ecosystems, cultural heritage impacts, property requirements and access impacts, and of course, traffic operations and safety. Next slide. So now we get into the individual shortlisted alternatives and their sub-alternatives that were evaluated. The displays identify if they're being carried forward as a preferred alternative or not. You can see in the top, the little red, not carried forward. The alternatives considered consisted of 4-leg and 3-leg signalized intersections and roundabouts, with additional sub-alternatives for the signalized intersections, which considered the closure of the Irvine Street side road at Perth Road. Irvine connects to Perth Road within the functional area of the main Highway 15 Perth Road intersection. Alternative 3B, which you see here, is a 4-leg roundabout. As you can see, it requires full property acquisition and the removal of a home in the southeast corner. There are also multiple private accesses who will be impacted in terms of how they access Highway 15 due to the roundabout splitter islands. The overall footprint of the work is also larger than the signalized intersection alternatives and therefore more impactful in terms of natural and cultural environmental criteria. Both roundabout options require that Irvine be converted to a cul-de-sac due to the limited space. Next slide. So alternative 4 is a 3-leg alternative 4 is a 3-leg roundabout. It has the same impacts as the previous alternative with the additional impact of the closure of Whippoorwill Road or third line. Next slide. So alternative 1B is a 3-leg signalized intersection where the third line and Highway 15 connection has been closed and replaced with a cul-de-sac. This alternative requires some property acquisition, utility relocation to accommodate the pavement widening needed for the additional turning lanes. Next slide. And alternative 1B sub-alternative involves the Irvine-Perth connection being closed or replaced with a cul-de-sac, similar to the roundabouts. Aside from the closure of Irvine at this connection, there are similar impacts to the previous signalized intersection alternative. Next slide. Alternative 1A is a four-leg intersection, which leaves the Irvine-Perth connection open. This alternative has similar requirements to the three-leg alternatives, requiring property acquisition, utility relocation for the pavement widening, and there are also some minor grading requirements to driveways in the area. Next slide. And then you may be asking why the odd ordering to the alternatives. It's so I could save the best for last. Here we have alternative 1A sub-alternative. It's a four-leg signalized intersection where Irvine and Perth road connection has been closed and replaced with the cul-de-sac. Other than the Irvine closure, this again has similar requirements and impacts to the previous signalized intersection alternatives. This is the preferred alternative for the project. We'll give you a second to take a look at it, and I'll dive into how we arrived at it a little more in a few moments.
Any questions up to now, or Councillor Dowdle?
Just one, from the intersection north, how much of an impact on the general store would there be, if any?
Well, the boulevard in front of the store will be impacted due to the widening for the right turn lane. The building itself will not be impacted.
So when you use the term signalized, do you mean a stoplight?
Yes, I mean a red, yellow, green stoplight for all directions.
Thank you.
Gordon Kidd?
Yeah, I think we brought it up before, but Irvine Street, we'd certainly, if it's a roundabout, we'd certainly need some sort of a trail or sidewalk coming to the county road so that children or anybody doesn't have to go out and come down the highway to go to the store, that they could come through that cul-de-sac to get to high. That's what they're going to do anyway. So we want to see a trail or something there that people can walk out to the intersection. And then also the fact that where Irvine Street, where they turn off the highway, that maybe the turning lane would have to be explored at making it wider would be our two concerns.
Yep, thank you. We've discussed those in the past, and yeah, MTO intends to conduct additional pedestrian traffic counts and determine the facilities that are required there. And that would be included, I think, a little later in the design. And they're also committed to doing traffic counts and looking at the, excuse me, looking at monitoring the location at the south side of Irvine Street and Highway 15 and monitoring its conditions. And if operational issues are identified, MTO is going to implement the necessary improvements. Anything else? All right, let's move on. Sorry, just a second. I'm having some technical difficulties here. As part of the PIC materials, we provide a brief summary table of the advantages and disadvantages to give some rationale into how we arrived at the preferred alternative. I'm not going to go through each one and take up everyone's time reading all of this. Let's go to the next slide. What's going on? Sorry, my computer's freezing up here. Well, we have those preferred or those disadvantages and advantages kind of go hand in hand with this slide. It's a nice visual summary of the alternative evaluation. While the traffic, I'll kind of run through how we arrived at our preferred alternative. While the traffic safety and operation for the roundabout alternatives was a little more favorable than signalized intersections, the property impacts and the impact of that home, as well as the private access restrictions and some of the more minor impacts to natural and cultural criteria, ultimately eliminated them from being a preferred alternative. In terms of the signalized intersections, the impacts were fairly similar across the board, as you saw, with the exception of traffic operations at the intersection. With the Irvine Street connection to Perth Road being located so close to the main intersection, the traffic operations were less favorable for keeping that connection open. So that leaned the sub-alternatives with Irvine closed into the front running, and ultimately the impacts to local access associated with closing third line was the tie-breaking factor, which led to the preferred alternative, the four-leg signal, and Irvine being closed. Moving on. As we round things up, we have an overview, which was presented at the PIC, of the preliminary impacts resulting from the preferred alternative and how they'll be mitigated and addressed as part of the future work. A lot of these items will be refined and included as part of the detailed design phase. A few examples are mitigation measures for migratory birds, sediment and erosion control measures during construction, maintaining accesses and traffic control measures during construction, and so on. And moving on, to wrap things up, I guess we have the next steps for this study. Right now, we're working on providing responses to the comments received during PIC number 2, as well as refining the design, the studies, the technical reports, which are going to be included and summarized in the TESR. We anticipate filing the TESR for the 30-day comment period in December, and after which we'll move on to the detailed design phase and preparation of the contract package for construction. Last slide. That pretty much wraps up the presentation. All of this information presented at both of the PICs, which is where the majority of this council presentation has come from, can be found on the website. It's pretty easy to find if you search for Highway 15 and Perth Road. It's one of the first websites that'll pop up. Are there any more questions?
Okay, thank you very much, David. Any questions from council? Councillor Brown.
So of the possible alternatives, which include a roundabout, have you at this stage ranked them? Because looking at some of the requirements of the roundabout, it could include having to acquire property and make provision for the bats. I'm just wondering, could it end up that it was as simple as a four-way stoplight?
Yes, we have evaluated all of the alternatives and come to the conclusion that the four-way stoplight is the preferred alternative. That's what we'll be carrying forward for the design.
Thank you.
Councillor Carroll.
Just the safety of like, I worry about people like running through the red lights and all that kind of idea too, as well. We see those sometimes, especially on highways and rushing through. Is there like a thought process for like a delay? Is that even done at all? Where like when that light turns red to the highway, there's a little extra delay before the one turns green? Because that'd be my biggest concern about the traffic light side of it too as well. It makes sense, but the traffic light side of it is that safety side of people not stopping because it's on a highway. Is that kind of done in different places? And is that sort of, is there concerns? Is my concern valid, or is it something that's not really a concern that comes up?
That's a good question. I might get Scott Fortner, our traffic specialist, to jump in here. Signal timings are kind of a standard setup based on various criteria. I don't know if, Scott, you want to discuss it a little further?
Well, in terms of a delay, are you making reference to a delay before the cross street starts up again, before Perth has a green?
Yeah, exactly. For the Perth to get the green. So the people that are driving on the highway, when they don't gun it through that red light when that green light comes on, and then we see that T-bone issue.
So there's 2 points I can respond with. One is, in terms of delays are typically associated only with pedestrian phases. So before an approach gets a green, there are sometimes 2 to 3 second signal provided for the pedestrians before the vehicles in the same direction get their green. And that's to make sure that pedestrians are have advanced onto the road, so they're much more visible before the vehicle decides to turn right or left. So delays themselves for the purpose that we're talking about now are not, I'll say I'm not familiar with them, and I've got about 35 years of traffic engineering experience, so it's not something I've come across. However, the Ministry of Transportation signal timing guidelines specifically set all red and amber times that are prescribed on the basis of both the size of the intersection as well as the design speed of the roadway. So it's we often think an all red interval is or an amber interval is, or orange ball is about 4 seconds and 2 seconds for red, but in truth those numbers vary. And they're specifically related to how wide an intersection is, because that in the same sort of thought stream that you've presented, if you have a very wide intersection, then it takes longer to pass through that intersection, and you should have a longer clearance interval to make sure that these vehicles have cleared the intersection. There's also signal timings once the detailed design proceeds. Actually also look at, in some cases, there's detectors upstream of the intersection to determine or detect the presence of a vehicle approaching the intersection, to make sure that that vehicle isn't sort of stuck in that very difficult decision point of, oh, should I keep going or should I stop? So those are the sort of mechanisms that deal with rural intersections in particular, to make sure that we can't design against someone who's intentionally going to run a red light. That's certainly, unfortunately, we can't protect against the people that are doing those sorts of things. But the signal timings themselves, the advanced detectors, are all designed in a way to make sure that vehicles aren't or drivers aren't in a position of being in that sort of very difficult time of, oh, I might be able to stop, but I can't. And so the signal will time accordingly if there's a vehicle detected, and that distance upstream of the intersection could be 150 meters, it could be 175 meters. It's all dependent on the design speed. So that's something that an electrical engineer actually would design into the signal layout, with input on operations based on the sorts of analysis we do. So the answer to your question is there isn't a standard practice to delay green time on a side road to protect against an intentional red light runner, but there is electrical infrastructure to set amber and red times and detect approaching vehicles to make sure you're not turning it red right in the middle of that decision time and making it and resulting in someone going through unintentionally.
Thank you. A very detailed answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions of David or Scott? Councillor McLaren.
Yeah, for that question, I've found over many years of driving a very, very simple solution. If there's a pedestrian light, if it's a countdown, look at the number of seconds left, gives you a warning when that light is going to turn yellow. Or if it's the regular, just the straight light, it'll start flashing red for probably 5 seconds before it's going to turn orange. You get a good time to figure it out.
Okay, question myself, David. You said there's a third PIC?
Yes, during the detail design phase, which will be starting once the tester has been filed and complete and approved, there'll be a third PIC for the detail design to pick the final construction, the traffic staging, and so on. That won't be for a while. There's no set time for that yet.
I'm sorry?
There's no set time for that, but there will be one in the future, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for David or Scott? Okay, David, that was a very well entertained presentation with all the charts and everything. We thank you for that. And any questions from Sean or Sam on that? You presume you're working with David. Everything's good to go over there? Okay, so the suggested motion that the Highway 15 at Perth Road intersection improvement update be received as information. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Jennings and Councillor Dowdle. Any further discussion on the matter? If not, calling the vote, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you, David and Scott.
Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is the Climate Network Lanark Neighborhood Climate Concierge Program. Andy Coburn or Cockburn, it doesn't matter whatever place in Lanark County you are, that's how do you pronounce the name? The floor is yours, Andy.
Pardon me, do I have to hold that down the whole time? Okay. So thank you, committee and council members. My name is Andy Coburn, and I'm proud to speak to you on behalf of the Climate Network Lanark and the Neighborhood Climate Concierge Program. I work locally with the Lanark and Leeds Home Builders Association, have since 2011, as well as nationally as Senior Director of Education with NAMA Canada, the North American Insulation Manufacturers Association. So I'm here this evening to relay the impact and importance of work that's being done by Climate Network Lanark. As a professional in the Canadian construction industry, I see something here that is unique, not only to our region, but to the entire country. Next slide, please. Some background, if I may. The Climate Network Lanark was formed 6 years ago as a volunteer-driven environmental nonprofit focused on down-to-earth translations of big climate issues we're facing globally. Network coordinators seated at the back have dedicated their energies at leading residents to action, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and building climate resilience into their own homes. Within the geography of Lanark County and Smiths Falls, the network has gathered over 1,500 supporters and program participants. This includes strong relationships with lower-tier municipalities, community organizations, businesses, and residents of towns and rural areas in our region. Next slide, please. While Climate Network Lanark began with grassroots education and mobilization, it's evolved over the years into an active and effective implementation partner for and in the county. And that includes advocating for the creation of Lanark County's Climate Action Plan and serving on the county's Climate Action Working Group, promoting the creation and supporting the development of the county's natural heritage strategy, and assisting lower tier municipalities in developing and implementing their own climate action plans. Now, CNL has further widened their impact by helping to establish programs like Better Homes Lanark, and by bringing Alice Mississippi Rideau to the county, and creating an event greening guide to help communities in the region in making tactile moves on climate action. Next slide. One of the big challenges I see in the industry around Canada is taking policy and advocacy groups and those goals that they set to the next stage of implementation, which is practical household action. Climate Network Lanark stands out in this regard as they've leveraged those policy goals into real action on the ground, such as workshops and programs like Electrify Lanark to help residents, local businesses, and municipalities understand how they can make a difference. This is critically important. The challenge to reach homeowners and businesses in a collection of spread out communities is near mountainous. Getting people motivated to act on local, practical, and accessible solution takes a special effort. And from what I've seen, Climate Network Lanark is leading that effort with success. Next slide. Case in point, for the past 3 years, the Neighborhood Climate Concierge Program has offered confidence-boosting sessions to homeowners and tenants who are courting the daunting process of making energy, climate, and resiliency retrofits to their buildings. As a guy who's been around the construction industry for almost 3 decades, the impact I've seen in this group is incredible to behold. Over 6 months, in 2-hour sessions, locals learn about everything from insulation upgrades to renewable energy systems, hearing from experts who join the discussion and help people understand their first steps. I can't stress enough the positive impact I'm seeing. People who start off nervous and skittish about the retrofit process are asking questions they may have been afraid to ask. And because it's a collection of neighbors, the heads nodding in familiarity around the room add a kind of reassurance that would be rarely gotten otherwise. This is just one of the ways that the concierge program shines. As they digest the proper order of operations for climate retrofits, participants actively pursue various rebates and incentive programs. They learn about county programs like Better Homes Lanark, and in the same stroke, they learn how to stack utility and provincial funding programs to take advantage of many incentives as possible, making the most impactful changes with those dollars. With that, many of the concierge members are now registered and moving through the Better Homes process because of what Climate Network Lanark has given them: guidance and confidence. Participants graduate with a better grasp of who they need to talk to, what questions to ask, and how to communicate effectively with contractors. I think I can say confidently that this kind of empowerment is equally valuable to homeowners as it is to the contractors who will help them. Next slide. Something important to note. The Neighborhood Climate Concierge Program is not just about delivering information. It's about generating very positive results for action. And I'll let the numbers speak for themselves. 69% have applied for funding since joining. 84% are actively planning or have undertaken retrofit work. Average satisfaction on the program is 4.4 out of 5, and 100% of participants would recommend the program. Taking part in the group not only guides decisions on making homes more comfortable, more energy efficient, and more resilient, but participants are also making strong connections to community, connections that are staying vibrant even after all the sessions have completed. Next slide. Up to this point, we've been talking about participants and local programming, but it's no surprise that even people outside of the Neighborhood Climate Concierge Group are singing its praises. People like nationally renowned climate scientist Dr. Annabella Benata from the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation, and Bridget O'Flaherty, lead retrofit accelerator researcher and sustainability consultant with Ottawa's Enviro Center. These reactions are genuinely impressive and worth promoting. What CNL is doing here is unique in Canada and so impactful in thinking globally while acting locally. Next slide. The positive impact and influence is apparent also in the reactions from surrounding communities and municipalities. There's a keen interest in replicating what CNL is doing from regions like Prescott Russell, North Grenville, Westport, and South Frontenac. This is demonstrative proof that this community-based model is what residents are hungry for. Someone to lead the way and build confidence beyond community sidewalks. There is great potential here for the county in sharing and adapting this program in partnership with the surrounding municipalities. Next slide. And this is the perfect place to ask a question about the future. Where does Climate Network Lanark go from here? How can we capitalize on the success of the Neighborhood Climate Concierge Program? I'd like to suggest the following. Expanding the Climate Concierge Program to help more people in Lanark County with continued workshops and education. Maintain the constant message of resilience at home and in communities, and tackle issues like affordability, housing, and occupant comfort across the region, and by continuing to work with surrounding communities, businesses, and local organizations. The work CNL has done these past 6 years can and should be replicated all around us. As I close, I'll ask you to please take this away. Homeowners and businesses in Lanark County want to take action, but knowing how and where to start is not as clear as it could be. The support that this council has shown for CNL and for the Neighborhood Climate Concierge Program needs to continue long term. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, and I believe that what we're doing here is a beacon for people here at home and across Canada. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Andy. Do you mind introducing your team at the back there? I know Sue Branham's been here for an advocate for many, many years.
Sue Branham is leading the charge for us, and Rachel Everett Fry is one of our coordinators, as well as Sadie Brule, who is our senior coordinator.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I have some questions. First from Councilor McLaren.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware or not. 2 years ago, we added Leeds and Grenville to Alice.
Yes.
And that was to promote it. We were having a public meeting in Leeds County, which brought delegates from all across Ontario to see the program. And of course, Norfolk and east of here, they've been involved for quite a bit of time.
Further questions, Councilor Brown?
Yeah, but one thing that you said really struck me was that if there's people out there that want to do what's right, they want to put in a solar roof, but they have no idea how to start. I guess my question is, are there many grants available for homeowners to do something like that, like put in a solar roof?
I won't kid you. The incentives and rebates landscape is challenging to say the least. And I'll take my hats off, many hats, to the people at the back behind you who wrangle those rebates. There are rebates out there like Better Homes Lanark. There are affordability rebates. There is utility rebates like the Home Renovation Savings Program. And when participants are going through the concierge program, they get updating every session to say, how are you doing? Have you applied? What kind of rebates are you seeing? Did you qualify for this? And so we're really funneling people towards as many as we possibly can, especially since they're stackable. And this gives people a great chance not only to court the idea of renewable energy, but even doing the pedestrian stuff like fixing the guts of the walls, the things that don't break, filling up their attics, replacing windows, doing things about air tightness, looking at heat pumps. We offer that order of operations as well, so that they're doing all of those steps in the right order to make sure that they're getting the most, making a plan, and sticking to that plan, including things like renewable energy.
Councilor Rayner.
That was a great presentation. I want to commend Climate Network Lanark. I always get those three words confused, which one goes in the right order. But I want to commend you and your team for your work. I've been following it for the past 6 or so years, and I know you began very organically, very small. Things have come along a long way in that time, so kudos on that. I guess I have a couple of questions. One would be with regard to your presentation kind of focused on the confidence that people are gaining from participating in the program, which is great. How does that, in tangible terms, what does that translate to in terms of actual things that people then commit to doing that they weren't ready to commit to before? What would be maybe some of the top 2 or 3 actions? My second question has to do with, there's no question in my mind this program should be scaled up. And so I'm wondering about whether or not you have a tangible potential provincial partner or federal partner or national partner that could help scale this up, because it would make sense to me to kind of scale this up as opposed to other regions just trying to get their own thing going that's kind of similar when you guys have already broken so much ground. I would think the potential for scaling here with one or more bigger partners would be significant.
And I'll answer your second question first. That scaling is one of the challenges of which I think that our group has looked at and thought, yes, this is something that should be expanded. What we do, how we get there is part of that challenge. I know from my own experience working nationally, I know of only 2 other municipalities across Canada that are doing something similar. And one of them is online. It's not a person to person. That uniqueness I spoke of, I'm confident in saying that I don't see this in other jurisdictions. But what I do see, every time I go into another room or a board meeting, I hear the same things being repeated. How are we going to get people to do this? How should they actually start? And to your first question, that's part of the process of what we're doing with each of the cohorts, is taking them through the steps. How do you get started? I mean, literally, we're talking to homeowners who say, I live in a box that has this thing that sticks out the front, and I think maybe it's cold. And you explain to them or try to get them to help understand, what are we talking about here? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to assess your home. We're going to have someone come in and do an energy audit, who's going to do a visual inspection and see what's going on, and hear that anecdotal piece as well of what rooms are too cold, what stinks. Do you ever feel like One room is always uncomfortable no matter what time of year. And we talk about that. We get the participants to start making a plan with those experts that we bring in. We don't send them off into the field and just hope they find the grass. We are very much pointing them in the right direction with that order of operations in mind. And so far, that's been a great success. That's where that confidence boost comes from, is that people look at it and say, all right, I might not get to all of the steps this year or in 2 years, but what I do have now is a plan to go through those steps. And that's a big thing for many of the homeowners that we see.
Any further questions, Councillor Manelli?
Yes, I'd like to echo Councillor Rayner's comments about climate action. Lanark, they do such a good job. They're hardworking people. You hear about them everywhere you go almost, and they're involved in the community. So thank you for your hard work.
Okay, seeing no further questions, Andy and your team, thank you very much for what you do, and your presentation was well received.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, suggest a motion that the Climate Network Lanark Neighborhood Climate Concierge Program delegation be received in information. Looking for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Lowry and Councillor McLaren. Oh, further discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Councillor McLaren. Lowry first, McLaren. Okay, no presentations. We have a communication from the town of Southwest Oxford. Does anybody want to comment on that? Seeing none, the suggested motion that the communications for the August Public Works Committee meeting be received with information. Looking for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Randall and Councillor, what's your name? Matheson. No further discussion. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor, and that's carried. No consent reports. We have 3 discussion reports. The first one is Phragmites. Elizabeth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is just to give you an update on Phragmites in Lanark County, as well as talk to you about the new Phragmites Management Area Working Groups. So just some background overview on Phragmites, also known as European common reed. It's an invasive species that was brought to North America in the 1800s, so it's been here for quite a while. It's referred to as Canada's worst invasive plant, and it can really live in any environment, so terrestrial, aquatic, and semi-aquatic environment. So it spreads mostly via its extensive root systems or rhizomes, which makes it a bit more challenging to manage. So it does spread partially by seed, but really it is that underground root system that allows it to spread so far and wide. It can reach heights up to 5 meters, impacting visibility. So just some of the impacts of Phragmites, because it's an aquatic or semi-aquatic plant, it can alter hydrology because it grows so densely. It can clog ditches, storm drains, and agricultural tiles, causing flooding, property damage, and reduced crop yields. Because it grows so aggressively, it creates these really dense mats that don't allow other vegetation, native vegetation, to coexist there. It limits shoreline access, reducing property values, and increases fire hazards, and creates visibility issues at intersections. So across Lanark County, we do an annual inventory of all the patches of Phragmites on our roads and trails. So there's 165 distinct cells on county roads and trails, and that number has been increasing annually. So just some Phragmites management efforts to date. We've tried mowing. So this is really because Phragmites has such an extensive underground root system. Mowing Phragmites doesn't necessarily control it. It just helps increase visibility in the roadside where visibility is an issue. But access is often challenging to mow in the ditches, and it may increase the root system. So digging is another effort that we've taken, but it's really only feasible for really small cells that are less than 10 meters long in the roadside. So our vegetation staff will cut the cells by hand, which is very labor intensive. And then herbicide is really the most effective management technique, and it's what's recommended in the best management practices for larger patches. So it's applied by a licensed contractor, and it often requires repeated application just because it's so dense and its root system is so massive. It does typically require a few years of application. So herbicide, like I said, is the most effective Phragmites management strategy that's recommended. Each year, Lanark County selects a subset of dry Phragmites patches that are entirely on county property. So when we're using herbicide, we're limiting it to those patches that are just on our property, because currently, like if it's on adjacent property, we're not spraying that. So don't want to waste our efforts in patches that are just growing on the other side of the fence. So over the years, we've sprayed 36 different cells. 11 of those have been eradicated. So just going to show, it does require repeated applications and like before you can expect it to be eradicated. So in 2026, we're planning on increasing herbicide use from just the dry patches to also include wet locations. So this is 85 separate cells that are entirely on our property, and we'll acquire the appropriate permits for areas that are in wet locations. And like I said, larger cells may need to be treated multiple times. So I just wanted to talk quickly about the issue of Phragmites on adjacent property. So right now we only spray ones or treat cells that are entirely on our property, but there's another 40% of cells that travel onto adjacent property from our roads and trails. So really to target these patches, partnering with adjacent landowners would be required. So there's a new program that sort of aims to do that, to partner with adjacent landowners and different organizations. So it's an Ontario-wide program called the Phragmites Action Program. And it recognizes that Phragmites is a landscape scale issue across multiple different people, organizations, properties. So the program divides Ontario into these regional Phragmites management areas to coordinate mapping, planning, and management between public and private organizations. So Lanark County has joined the Mississippi Valley and Rideau Valley Phragmites management area working groups to map Phragmites and then develop a regional management plan. So these are both organized through the conservation authorities. And they're made up of municipalities, and conservation authorities, NGOs, farmers, community groups, and contractors. So right now, the groups are focused on mapping Phragmites across the two watersheds. The next step will be developing a management plan and then applying for funding to actually manage Phragmites. So management plan considerations, that we'll look at is establishing priority treatment areas. So looking at major vectors of spread. So busy roads, trails, water bodies, sensitive habitat. Taking an integrated pest management approach, meaning that we'll use all the different management techniques that are available to us while also completing regular monitoring to follow up on progress and see what's working. And then also to develop a coordinated approach by collaborating with partner organizations and private landowners. So the Long Point Phragmites region is an area that was totally covered in Phragmites, and it's a super sensitive area for a bunch of different species at risk and migrating birds. So in 2015, the Long Point Phragmites Action Alliance was established between 29 different partnering organizations. And their goal was really to just have a coordinated approach to managing Phragmites. So they use all the different approaches that are available to them, including herbicide, burning, rolling, and monitoring. And over the years, since 2015, with annual management and monitoring, they've seen an increase in native vegetation in treated plots, an increase in forage quality for migratory birds, increased diversity and abundance of species at risk, and an increase in fish habitat. And really one thing about this story is just that Phragmites and invasive species management is a long-term effort that requires collaboration and monitoring just to make sure the progress that you've made continues and to not reverse any progress. So in summary, we continue to manage and monitor Phragmites across our rights-of-way. We're working with the different working groups to establish a regional management plan, and partnering with adjacent landowners will be required to treat Phragmites cells that extend beyond county property. Options for doing that could be brought to a future meeting.
Questions for Elizabeth? Where's Long Point? Lake Erie. Councillor McLaren.
Yeah, assuming the spray is a contact chemical, I would assume it's used fairly early in the season. And does it grow back very much that you could use it a second time the same season when it's fairly weakened already, as opposed to waiting a year?
So for Phragmites, herbicide is applied in the fall when it's in full bloom. And then that's when the plants are actively bringing energy down to their roots. So they bring the chemical into their roots to kill the root system. And you're only allowed to apply product once a year.
Councillor Carroll, I think.
With the landowners and everything else, the partnering there that you're talking about, is that like sort of the landowner then we're responsible for, and like even the other organization we're responsible for ponying up their sort of side of the funds for the herbicide and everything else? Or would this be something that we would be, you're proposing, or the proposal is to combine, or for us that like the county were to do it, but just having their permission? Like what is that sort of agreement in the thought process would look like?
Yeah, so there's multiple options that could be brought forward in more detail. There are grant programs that apply to private and people can apply to together that we could encourage private landowners to apply to, or we could apply on their behalf. Say there's like a Phragmites patch that's on our property and their property. It could potentially be grant programs that we facilitate.
There's grant programs through the Ontario government or
Yeah.
to as well. So there is money from the province too as well that's willing if we go down a route, if that comes back. I know it's very preliminary, but if it comes back, then
Yeah, so the Ontario has the Phragmites Control Fund. And then the way that, so Cataraqui, I always mess up the saying of that. They have a Phragmites management area working group similar to the ones that we're in. And the way they manage funds is they apply on behalf of the municipalities and private landowners, and then basically distribute the funding based on the priorities in their management plan. So that could be an avenue, but.
Thank you. That's interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Further questions? Warden Kidd.
Yeah, we've been talking about this a long time, and we're losing the war. Like, all you have to do is look at this bar graph. In Lanark County, one of our, some people look at is assets is wetlands. We're at our natural heritage corridor. When we did our breakout sessions, this was seen as one of the enemies of that. Animals can't go through this. It's so thick that they can't even go through it. And the conservation authorities, I know, all good intents, and it came up at Mississippi Valley. I'm a board member. I asked about it. They're mapping and deciding where the cells are. And that's the first step. Sure. I'm doing it for a year. We've been doing it for years. But that is not a mandate of the Conservation Authority. And when these ones join together and the province comes down on them that they stay within their mandate, this is not going to be part of it. And I think it's time for us, and we've been doing it at a smaller level, but that we have to get after this stuff. We have to declare war on it, and we have to have staff come back with an option of how to cut this in half. And whether it's getting landowners, all that, as it was said, this Phragmites isn't coming from the landowner's side onto the road. It's coming from the road into the landowners and into those wetlands. And if we don't get at this, we're going to end up like Peel, where there's thousands of acres covered with this stuff, that they're going out and rolling it with tractors and burning it to try to get it under control. So I really think that we should add to this motion that staff come back with a plan and not wait for a regional plan or anything else. We should go at this now, and how we're going to cut this in two as quickly as possible. Have a goal. It's going the wrong way quickly. And this is just on our property, and it's going off our property onto private property. And I am sure that there'd be a lot of landowners that if we provided the licensing for the spraying, if we had the contractor there doing it, that they would pay something to get this off their property, because it is bad stuff. And it's not like all the other invasive things where it seems to come and go. This just gets bigger and bigger in these cells, is what was said. So I'd like to put forth an amendment to the motion that council asks staff to come back with a plan for the next 2 years, how to cut those number of cells at least in half. And to work with, one of the things in the thing here is to work with landowners, and also to work with landowners, neighboring landowners.
Councilor Rayner.
So I'm going to move that.
Yeah, I'm happy to support that. I'd like to also suggest that lower tier municipalities be brought into this as well. I think lower tier municipalities have to look at the possibility of contributing some funds to aggressive action within their jurisdiction.
Yeah, I'd take that as a friendly amendment or whatever.
Councilor Dowdle.
Yes, the at a recent RBC executive committee, which I sit on, we had the very same discussion that Warden Kidd brought up, and the general frustration was so much talk that the only way we will win in this battle is if it's action filled. So I definitely will support Warden Kidd's motion. I think it's the only way to go. And with the realignment of the conservation authorities, I don't think this will be part of their mandate. I don't know for sure, but I think we should be moving ahead.
Councilor Rayner. Oh, sorry, Toby Randall. Start with R.
Thank you. Yeah, I concur wholeheartedly with Warden Kidd. There are cells on the way into the city that are right bordering, Scarily enough, having taken many trips down east to visit family over the past year, Quebec they've just given up. Like, it's scary how much of this stuff is in Quebec. I would like to make a friendly amendment, which is to take our discussion and request for a plan and send that to our neighboring communities, Ottawa, Renfrew County, just to let them know that we are taking this very seriously, and that Phragmites in general is going to be a big problem and only get bigger in the future. So just so that they're aware that we're doing it, and maybe spur them on to do something themselves, because as it has been noted, it's just going to take over, and it's nothing but trouble. So if the warden would allow me to add that onto it, I'd appreciate it.
So we got a moving motion going up here on the board as we speak. Councillor McLaren, want to add?
Well, the worst offender is MTO. Always has been. I think that's where it came from in the first place, and they're doing nothing except for mowing it sometime through the year.
Any further discussion, Councillor Lowry?
Just wondered through you to the warden if there has been any discussion at the Warden's Caucus about this. I know they're a little bit more focused towards advocating to the province, but do you think there's any appetite to have some discussions there on a local problem that needs some local solutions?
Yeah, I think both yours and Toby's, I think we should lead on this. And then if we can get some groundwork on it, then we could go there with that. But there has been no discussion.
Nothing to date.
Whatsoever about it. I just think this is something we have to deal with here now. And we've been monitoring these and telling us where they are and what size they are. It's time to declare war and go after this. And then once we have those best practices, maybe we can get others involved, and especially landowners. Get them involved, I think, is the key part of it.
Any further questions? Discussion?
I just am curious, like, how can we get that provincial support? Because I think if we're going to go down this road, like, I mean, there's got to be. Do we reach out to the provincial?
I didn't till tonight that there was a fund.
Yeah, I hear you. It's new, so it's like we want to go after that as much as possible, because that could be the best avenue. And is there, like, do we need our MPP, or do we need to talk whoever the MPP is that's responsible for that environmental side of things too, as well, to say, hey, like, we want to take it serious. Like, we need your support. Like, it's like that government relations side of things, like reaching out to say, hey, how can we, like, how can you support us to do this? We're willing to take a bite into this too, as well. So I think
I think it's first of all coming up with a plan, an action plan, and this is what we're going to do, and we want your support.
And then go down the road.
Yeah.
Where this is not native, sorry, it's a random question, but where it's not native, how is it dealt with? Like, it came from somewhere where it is native, but it's not invasive. How is it dealt with? Is there, like, there?
So the way, like, invasive species work are where they come from, they're not invasive.
Yeah, so yeah, but what eats them there, I guess, right? Because that's
so there's actually well, sort of the ecosystem sort of balance each other out. Like, there's predators and but there are two moths that have been studied for a few decades now that they're trialing releases in Canada. So they eat them where they're native, and they're really selective. So they only eat Phragmites. So they've been studying releasing them and are planning to release them at a larger scale in the next few years. It's just really slow. Like, biological controls and releasing insects is like a really slow process that has a lot of.
Sometimes you created other problems too as well when you do that. So, but it's interesting that that's also being tested too as well. That's an interesting point too as well. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
So there could be right now they're looking for certain like locations to release the moth that have both native and invasive Phragmites at the same location to see how they interact with each other. So we're looking, it could potentially be released here in Lanark County if we find a site like that, but it is interesting. Like, it's so well researched that it's not intended to or anticipated to have any negative impacts. Like, they're super selective on just eating Phragmites.
Can't wait for that, though. We have to go ahead. Anyway, this is the motion. And
Councillor Dowdell.
Yes, I think it was at Good Roads at the trade show. And perhaps somebody could help me here. There was a display. I don't know if it's a provincial association. I'm not saying they're provincial, but there's an association at that level, and they're known as a Pragmatis group. But they did have an active display. What they had to offer, I don't know, funding, I couldn't.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, the suggested motion is on the screen. Moved by Warden Kidd and second, I think, by Councillor Rayner. Report PW 19-2026 Phragmites update be received in information, and that council direct staff to bring forward a 2-year Phragmite management plan that includes private landowners and lower tier municipalities, and that the approved managed plan be circulated and communicated to neighborhood municipalities and agencies. Any further discussion before I call the vote? Warden Kidd.
Yeah, so I wanted to cut, I want a goal in there. There's no goal. I said to cut it in half.
So can that not be made in the plan?
I want it in the motion. We should, to have a plan, you should have a goal, what you want out of the plan. A minimum of 50% cut.
Happy with that? Any further discussion before I call the vote? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Elizabeth. Your one sentence motion went into 4 here. Moving on with Public Works reports. Sam Poole has the 2026 construction update, which is quite lengthy. Sam.
Good evening. So the purpose of this report is to provide an update to council on the status of ongoing public works construction projects. So here's a summary of our 2026 construction project schedule. So we've completed 5 major road rehabilitations at this point. We also have 1 project on Town Line Road, which has not begun, which is storm sewer improvements. I'm going to be going through each individual project throughout the report, as well as the intersection approach improvements at Richardson Side Road at the intersection of County Road 10, and as well as the joint project between the county and Mississippi Mills on County Road 29 for water main and intersection improvements. We've completed 12 culvert replacements on various roads in the county. They're all complete. And we've also completed 3 out of 4 microsurfacing projects, as well as 2 sections of shouldering on Wolf Grove Road and Maberly Elfin Road. And we're currently working on the 5 Arches Bridge as well. So here are a couple photos of the finished project of Highway 511. So we've completed 511 up to 1 section south of the Renfrew County boundary. We did drainage improvements, culverts, ditching, rock removal, and paved the full width with paved shoulders, or guide rail replacement, and then applied fog seal to the shoulders to help lock in the aggregates. And Ferguson Falls Road was completed from Pine Grove Road to approximately 800 meters east of Prestonville Road. So it was repaved full width with a paved shoulder, hardened shoulders as well. We also corrected some curves and super elevations in the project, and concrete repairs on the Ferguson Falls Bridge, as well as supplied microsurfacing to the bridge surface and replaced guide rail at the bridge as well. And Pine Grove Road, which is also complete, got a similar treatment to Ferguson Falls Road, full width paved shoulder with the hardened shoulders. We also widened the intersection of Pine Grove Road at Ferguson Falls Road where it meets to accommodate some of the wider truck turning movements there, as well as the kind of unique structure of that intersection with Upper Perth Road being in such close proximity. So it was completed just about to the 7th concession of Lanark from Ferguson Falls Road. And Bolingbrook Road was completed from Red Pine Road to Highway 7. with a double surface treatment and hardened shoulder. And we also completed rock removal, culverts and drainage, as well as guide rail. And it'll be followed up with microsurfacing next year. And we paved a portion south of Highway 7 to accommodate the turning vehicles from the highway and the commercial property right adjacent to Highway 7. And Wolf Grove Road was completed as well through Middleville. We repaved the asphalt boulevards on each side and extended beyond the Agricultural Society property. Replaced deteriorated curb gutter, as well as made updates to the stormwater system in Middleville. And we were able to work with the Township of Lanark Highlands to pave the Middleville Fire Hall at the same time and take advantage of the pricing of our contract, as well as make some repairs and improvements to the Middleville Community Hall entrance. And this project extended from the 6th Concession and Galbraith Road to Harding Road. And the Five Arches Bridge project, which is ongoing. The masons are currently on site installing stonework. They're about 2/3 completed on the capstones. These photos were taken last week. The project's proceeding on schedule at this time, and they're working on some of the civil works on the approaches as well as the electrical installations. So the County Road 29 and County Road 16 intersection, the addition of left turn lanes, this project's ongoing. So this began as a partnership with Mississippi Mills to accommodate some of our intersection improvements along with their water main work in that corridor. So in order to complete both projects essentially and take advantage of the contract to be in the same area conducting the water main works, we were moving to add left turn tapers at the remaining 3 legs of the intersection and replace and improve the traffic signals. So the Town Line Road construction project is a rerouting of existing storm sewer from the former county housing units to the north of Town Line Road. This project has been delayed due to contamination in the roadbed. There's some back and forth between us and the other party with that, and it has delayed the project. We are still hoping to tender and complete the work this fall, though. As part of this project was slated to be completed early in the season and microsurfaced from Joseph Street to Highway 7, and that has been deferred until 2027 at this point due to these delays. And Richardson Side Road approach improvements. This project's going to be tendered within the week, and it's improving the approach grade of Richardson Side Road as it meets Drummond Concession 2, County Road 10. Removing rock and lowering the approach grade to improve sight lines as you approach County Road 10 and road safety. We'll also be adding right turn tapers at Richardson Side Road and McPhail's Road at the same time. So this year we've had increases with asphalt price index and fuel price index for each month of the tender projects. So the total asphalt price index to date is 344,000. Based on our completed projects, we're projecting to finish at 415,000 versus last year, which was 251,000. And the fuel price index has also increased for each month of the projects. We are at 156,000 year to date and projecting 180,000 with a favorable of 154,000 paid to the county in 2025. So total year to date is 500,000 as to 765 and anticipated is 596. So overall, our projects are tracking well within our budgeted figures, other than the index adjustments on the projects. We made a reduction to Ferguson Falls Road to accommodate some of these anticipated expenditures for the index adjustments. And we also received higher pricing than anticipated on microsurfacing initially, so that does balance some of the increase from the index adjustments, but we are still looking at approximately a $400,000 change at the end. And we recommend to fund this adjustment through the Public Works operating or capital budget surplus. And if there is an availability, and look at funding the remaining with reserves if required as a last resort.
Okay, questions for Sam? Councillor Brown.
Thank you. So one of the problems that we have as a town is, our infrastructure is getting ever older. And also when we do streets as opposed to roads, we do the sewers, and so the cost goes up. So I'm just wondering, on a county basis, are things pretty well staying in line, like the costs are not going up an unexpected amount?
We aren't seeing the major increases as was seen in the past 5 years, though they tend to trend upwards with inflation. But particularly this year is the index adjustments that have made a pretty sizable impact to the contracts.
Councillor Manelli.
Sam, I'm just wondering, is there any projects that are going to run into the colder weather, or you think you'll have everything cleaned up?
Specifically, the bridge, we're on schedule at this time, and the initial completion date was slated for November, and we were anticipating to meet that or exceed that.
Warden Kidd.
Yeah, the shortfall, the 400,000 or estimate or whatever it is, the solution, how we finance that, will come back to the committee before we do it. Okay. And don't tell anybody the bridge is going to be opened any sooner than the date we set.
Any further questions of Sam? Okay, suggested motion is that report PW 202026 2026 construction update be received as information. We move her to seconder, Councillor Carroll and Councillor Jennings. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Third report is the closure of portions of County Road 21, Elm Grove Road. Cindy.
Hey, thank you. So this is just a report to recommend to council that we proceed to close portions of County Road 21, which is Elm Grove Road, that the council's already declared surplus at a previous meeting, and the goal is that we can then convey them to adjoining property owners. So I brought a report back in January of this year. The resulting motion from that was to declare a certain section surplus of County Road 21. There wasn't a realignment and parcels on either side that were far beyond the actual roadbed. So that motion was approved, and the county council directed staff to proceed with the closure bylaw and getting the survey done and all that kind of stuff. So we proceeded with meeting all the steps in the sale of land bylaw. We did the formal public notice in March. As a result of that public notice, Hydro One Networks identified that there was some hydro infrastructure on the land, so they have asked for an easement to be registered before we proceed with any closure and conveyance. We went ahead and had the property surveyed, so the reference plan has been deposited on title. And we've notified the property owners that are impacted who will be receiving lot additions as a result of the closure and conveyance. So the I don't know if you recall, but there are two small sections that aren't going to be closed. It's parts 2 and 5. Those parts will actually form part of the boundary road called Rideau Lake Road. So those will be transferred to the lower tier municipalities. It's a boundary road, so it'll be Tay Valley Township and Drummond North Elmsley. So we've been working with their public works teams about that. So that transfer will take place, but that won't be part of the closure. So the next slide, if you could. So parts 3 and 6 on our plan will be closed and conveyed to the adjoining property owner. Part of the standard requirements is to ensure that those two parts merge with the adjoining property owner, so they be treated as one lot. And just a reminder, under the sale of land bylaw, when we approach landowners with this type of a transaction, we cover up to $1,000 plus HST of landowners' legal expenses to complete the transfer. I didn't have the areas of the parts when I did up the report. I do have those now. They're quite small. The total of parts 3 and 6 are 0.49 of an acre. So parts 4 and 7, they'll be conveyed to the owner, the adjoining property owner there. Consolidation, same thing, consolidation of the parcels so that they're treated as one lot. And the area of those two parts are 0.235 of an acre. And then the third one is part 9. Which is a smaller part. It will be closed. This is one landowner has not reached back out to us, so we're continuing to try to make contact with him, but we'll go ahead and propose that we go ahead and close the section, and we can deal with the transfer in due course once we were able to reach out to him. The total area of that parcel is 0.038 of an acre. And then this survey also identified 2 other small parts, parts 10 and 11. Those are so small, we're not proposing, we did not reach out to this landowner because we weren't aware that there was, any section of the road that was impacted by our closure. So we are just anticipating that we keep that with the county and not bother with any transfers, given that it's 0.00947 of an acre. So we'll just leave those parts as part of the road for now. On the Tay Valley side, those parts were all on the Drummond North Elmsley side. There is another section on the Tay Valley side I guess it would be the north side of the road. Part 7 on the old R plan will be conveyed. It's 0.12 of a hectare. So that part will be closed as part of the transaction as well and conveyed to the property owner. Same thing, it will be merged with the adjoining property owner and will cover up to $1,000 of the legal expenses. We also surveyed that little part 12 at the top there, and that's just a sort of a title correction to clarify jurisdiction between it's part of an unopened road allowance in Tay Valley and should not be part of the county PIN. So we just needed a part to describe it on the R plan so that we had a description for the correction. So this was a project that's been ongoing for a couple of years, so we have anticipated the survey expenses and the legal expenses as part of our budget. And that's my report.
Okay, any questions for Cindy? Seeing none, the suggested motion that council close parts of County Road 21, being the Elm Grove Road, being parts 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9 on 27R 12737, which are declared surplus and authorized conveyance of the same to the adjoining property owner, subject to a blanket easement in favor of Hydro One Networks, and that the clerk be directed to place a bylaw on the agenda at an upcoming council meeting to enable same. Looking for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Dowdall and Councillor Jennings. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor. Thank you very much. Verbal reports. There's no report from Councillor Randall. We had a great climate action report for the thing. Right down to adjournment. Looking for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Jennings and Councillor Carroll. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Oh, we're going to get started, so we'll call the meeting to order. If you have any disclosures of pecuniary interest. The approval of minutes, June 24th. Suggest a motion that the minutes of the Economic Development Committee held on June 24th, 2026 be approved as circulated. And I got a mover, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Doby, all in favor. And that's carried. Any additions and approval of the agenda? Suggest a motion that the agenda be approved as presented. Thank you, Councillor Manelli and Councillor Matherson, all in favor. And that's carried. No delegations, presentations. We have a few different communications, proposed planning act changes. Land tribunal and information of new development charges. Does anybody want to talk about any of those? Bring them forward. I'm seeing nothing. So the suggested motion is that the communications for the August Economic Development Committee meeting be received as information. Okay, mover, Councillor Jennings, Councillor McLaren, all in favor. And that is carried. So we're going to move down to the consent reports. I don't think Goran really wants to speak to these, so that's good because I don't think we have any questions for her. If we do, none, that's perfect. So the suggested motion is that the recommendations contained in the following consent report for the August Economic Development Committee meeting be approved. Report PD 17/2026, Quarterly Planning Department Statistics and File Status Report. If I can get a mover again for that. Councillor Dowdle and Councillor Lowry, and all in favor, and that's carried. So we're down to the discussion reports. So Cindy, who is going to come back up now and talk about the KNP trail update. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to give an update on the KNP acquisition. We had a public engagement session in May, so I just provide some brief details about that. Wanted to summarize the work to date for the survey and due diligence results in advance of the inspection period, which is coming up, and also to recommend to council that we consider a bylaw for the regulation of the trail in terms of wilderness and rules and regulations and moving forward. So just a background, the county entered into the agreement of purchase and sale to acquire the KNP from the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority that was signed in December of last year. The agreement provided an inspection period so that we had time to do our due diligence. The original date was in June, I believe. We got an extension to September 4th. Just yesterday, we've received confirmation that we'll have a further extension to that date for there's a couple of parts in the Renfrew County section that it's unclear whether or not they can be removed from the agreement. So until we know the status of those two parts, the parties have all agreed that we can extend the inspection period until such time as we know the status of those. So that will delay a little bit further what time period we have, and the lease where we assume management of the trail kicks in once the inspection period is complete. So it does say up there that after September 4th, we'll assume responsibility, but that date will be a date in the future. We don't know exactly when that will be. I suspect it'll be a month or two. So we held a public meeting in May in Hopetown. That meeting was really well attended, and there was over 60 people who attended. I think I've heard that there was more people in the parking lot that didn't even make it into the meeting. It was there was a lot of passionate people there. We did receive about 30 surveys from people. We had a series of questions, and those were filled out and completed. And we've also had online engagement where we continue to receive comments from the public. So the primary concerns we found based on the survey results, there's about 2/3 of the responses were concerned with maintenance and property access. And there was also significant concerns relating to public access and then also recreational use of the trail. We wanted to find out how and when people use the trail. So what we found was that most users use the trail year round. It's 4-season access. And also in terms of the purpose for using the trail, there's a significant number who indicated that they use it for vehicular access to their properties, either primary or seasonal properties. Some of those respondents used the Lanark section of trail to access the Renfrew cottages. So we've been working away, doing our due diligence with respect to the acquisition. Title issues abound up in that area, so we've been working with the surveyors and the lawyers. There's poor legal descriptions, which have led to a lot of unclear ownership interest. We will require vesting orders to correct those titles. They're all historical title overlaps. We're not aware of any current property disputes or boundary disputes in terms of where the trail is. It's just these conflicts were created in history, and we just need to fix them now. So we have determined that most sections will need to be surveyed. The previous plan showed inaccurate lot and concession fabrics, so that has skewed with the descriptions. We're doing 2 sections right now with the surveyors, and that's from the Frontenac boundary to approximately Folger. And then there's a section between Flower Station and the end of Round Lake that we're actively surveying right now. We're also working with Ministry of Natural Resources because there's a large section of the trail that abuts Crown land, and we need to better understand what they'll require from us in terms of, because we'll need to have them consent to or provide us with documentation to clear up title along their sections as well. There's an unregistered Bell easement that Bell has negotiated with MVCA that we'll be assuming. So that's between Folger and Levant Station. They have expressed an interest in making that a permanent easement, so we can work with them in the future about that. I think the current easement expires in 2030, and there's a 5-year extension on that one, and that's for 3.3 kilometers. The next slide is just, I won't go through it in detail, but that kind of sets out the various sections, parts on the plan, where they're located, and whether or not there's clear title or not clear title. You can see that there's only 3 sections that are in clear title right now that are safe that we could transfer tomorrow if we wanted to. The other ones will require survey or and legal work to fix that up. So I won't go through that in detail, but feel free if there's any questions. I can try to answer them. We're also working, sort of spearheading the work in the Renfrew section as well, and the title issues there are quite different than Lanark's, but they're working on those separately. Some other sort of interesting tidbits. There's a notice on title on one of the Renfrew parcels that talks about potential contamination from mining activities. That's just on the other side of the Lanark boundary. There's no notices on the Lanark side. We did not do any soil studies as part of the review. I did, however, it kind of piqued my interest to figure out what sorts of mining activity might have occurred. So I did pull the abandoned mine reports and speak to the Ministry of Mines. So I have that information on title. There's, I think, 4 different mines that were within the sort of close vicinity to the trail. As we talked about previously, there are sections of the trail that are used for vehicle access to properties, and we can't really cut off access for those folks. And some portions of the trail are also winter maintained either privately or through the township. And there's also commercial use, mostly logging to the Crown lands, and those typically have been managed through secondary use permits, which we expect to continue. Before we move on from that slide, I just recently, and it's not in here because it sort of came up in the last few days, just wanted to mention that there's, we know of a historical dam near Clyde Forks. It's dams up Nicholson Lake. Mississippi Valley, have been speaking with them, and they do not have any ownership or control over that dam. So we're a little bit concerned just because if that dam were to give way, it's about 100 years old, that there could be some infrastructure issues because that would probably wash out the trail. So we are sort of exploring and investigating options in terms of how to mitigate that. So in terms of the infrastructure that's part of the trail, there's approximately 27 culverts and box culverts. These are currently being inventoried and inspected. I think last week we had some consultants out to review that. There's one major bridge, the picture of it there, that's between Folger and Clyde Forks. I think Sean believes that's in pretty good shape. Yep. There's 3 municipal road crossings: Levant Station Road, Clyde Forks Road, Flower Station Road. Folger Road also intersects with the trail. There's 2 grass trailhead areas, one at Levant Station, one at Flower Station, which are, I think, maintained by third parties. I'm not sure about the Levant Station, but the Flower Station one definitely is. Several water access and rest camp spots are visible and used along the trail right now. Some of those we're not sure. We don't believe many of those are located on the trail property, but it's unclear. But there has been historical use of camping and so on. And there's some portions that the MVCA has identified as high flood risk. And on the next picture, on the next slide, you'll see that that's a picture that I took just after the August long weekend of the section between Flower Station and Round Lake. So there's some areas that are prone for flooding. So once, and again, that September 4th date will change, but it'll be in the future. But once we pass the inspection date, then we assume management of the trail through the lease that was signed at the same time as the agreement of purchase and sale. And that's when we have effective management. We do have, as we talked about earlier, the unique management considerations, which kind of are outside of what's in the 2017 OVRT management plan, which that existing management plan is due to be updated. So we're recommending that we take a holistic view to updating the management plan in 2027 and incorporate all trails with specific sections to deal with the specific KMP issues. We also recommend that council consider bylaw to assume it as a wilderness trail. And I think we're working in future as well to work on updating our rules and regulations bylaw so we have a way to enforce the rules on the KMP. The existing bylaw, I think, only applies to the OVRT and to Havelock. We also should be approaching the various recreational user groups to coordinate entering into the memorandums of understanding for recreational use. And we'll be working with the township and private contractors with respect to winter maintenance agreements for sections that need to be plowed during the winter. So up to date, the survey and legal work has been budgeted for. So we within the budget for 2026. Additional funding obviously will be required in subsequent years as we work through fixing the title issues and getting the vesting orders through the courts. Infrastructure assets will be added to our asset management plan. And there's been some application for grant funding that we've put forward to try to secure some funds to do some trail improvements next year and the following year. And that's it.
Great report, great update. Thank you. Questions? Mr. King?
First, I just wanted to say the town hall was a great success, well received by the community, and I think a good source of information for us to make decisions. And a number of counselors were there, so thank you for that. Secondly, what is my second point? It was a good one too. Yeah, I'll move on. Sorry, it's completely lost.
Comes back to you. It
was a very specific question.
I'll come back to you if it comes back. It's all good. Councillor Brown?
Most cases, it's been forfeited back to the Crown. There's a couple of sections, I believe, that there's old mining leases from the 40s and 50s to companies, which probably are no longer in effect. So we have not dug any deeper into those because I don't think it's, if somebody wants to mine on the trail, then we'll deal with that. But typically most of the areas, it's just forfeited back to the Crown.
Just your mic on there.
you've anticipated the survey costs, but seeing everything that has to be done, looks like like a dog's breakfast. I think that a substantial amount of staff time is going to be necessary to carry out all of these tasks. Has that been allotted for?
I mean, in terms of internal time spent, I mean, we've just been absorbing that into our workflow in the office. I've been working really closely with our lawyer to sort of update title searches to try to take some of the work off of her to do the background work. The work we're doing on behalf of Renfrew County, we are keeping track of that, and if it's appropriate, we would bill Renfrew for that time. But yeah, the staff time to date, we've just been sort of absorbed into our workflow.
I saw the light bulb go on, so Councillor King.
You mentioned applying for, I think it's 1.1 million in grants, which sounds substantial. Do we have a realistic shot at that funding, do you think?
I'm going to pass that one over to Jasmine. I don't know too much about the funding opportunity.
I think we have a reasonable chance, and we met the eligibility criteria pretty strongly in terms of creating a public asset and something that we're going to keep in the public realm for a long time. So, but they're always competitive. So.
Any other questions, Councillor Dowdle?
Perhaps you explained it, but I missed it. The reason it would be designated a wilderness trail, is that due to the level of upkeep and maintenance?
It's specific to comply with the AODA requirements under the Accessibility Act. So if it's a wilderness trail, we don't have to make it accessible under the regulation. So there's sections, I believe, of the OVRT in the urban areas that are very specific and are accessible, but there's absolutely no way we could make that trail accessible. So it just designates it as a wilderness trail to take it out of that realm of accessibility.
Question. Any other questions, Councillor Lowry?
I'm happy to support the motion. I just had a question to try to place the infrastructure requirements on this trail compared to the OVRT. And you may not have it. It may be something that Kurt knows off the top of his head, but I think it was 20 something, 25 or 27 culverts, and there's the one bridge, but I think it was 25-ish. How does that compare to the OVRT? Like, to me, that seems infrastructure dense. We should be aware of what that might mean, but maybe these are pretty small culverts too. I'm not sure.
There's a mix of bigger culverts, but I think most of them are just standard small culverts. Some of them are relatively new. Some of them are original culverts. I have no idea in terms of comparing what that is with the OVRT. I don't know, Sean or Kurt, if you have any thoughts to that, how it compares.
One big bridge.
The large bridges on the OVRT, and then that's only has one medium to small bridge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren.
Yeah, I was going to say in the Mining Act, we had a chap in the township, used to be a prospector. And so if somebody staked a claim, you have to spend X number of dollars a year in prospecting or making roads or whatever, or then the claim would be forfeited back to the crown, I believe. So if it's from the 40s or 50s, it probably went back then.
Thank you. No other questions. So the suggested motion is the draft bylaw designate the KMP trail as a wilderness trail and draft an interim management plan to be brought forward to a future meeting for discussion. Can I get a mover? Warden Kidd, Councillor Lowry, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. We have a couple subdivision ones coming up now. So Corin can come up for the first one for the Mill Run Extension Phase 7-8 subdivision.
Good evening, Council. Tonight I am presenting the Mill Run Extension Phase 7 and 8 subdivision in the municipality of Mississippi Mills, recommending for draft approval. So I wanted to come back from the 18th step workflow chart that we had before. So now we've condensed it to about 6, 7 steps. So Steve, hopefully that helps.
That's great.
So I kind of wanted to go through some of the major sort of steps in plan of subdivision approvals process. So first we start with, so on the left to the right. So first we have the pre-consultation or the formal pre-consultation. So this is where we have the applicant's consultants, agencies, municipal and county staff sort of get together and we review the conceptual plan. From there, there's formal meeting minutes, as well as we come out with a complete study submission checklist for the applicant, which sort of captures all the scopes and the studies required. And then we have our deeming, review, and circulation of notice of application. So this is when we receive the formal subdivision application. The application review is complete as per the pre-consultation study checklist. So we make sure we review the submission materials against the pre-consultation study checklist that was sort of submitted at pre-consultation. And then we have agency and public comment release. So after basically 30 days, we circulate it to agencies as well as we circulate to 120 meters members of the public for the subject property. So basically after everyone comments, we then release a status letter. And then basically what happens is the applicant responds to agency and public comments received. So we call this an updated submission. Sometimes this may take up to 2 to 3 months for them to comment back. But really this whole status letter and updated submission does take about 2 to 3 rounds. So it can take, it's really dependent on when the applicant's able to provide that updated submission, but we always make sure that we provide a 30-day timeline for agencies to comment and interested members of the public. So then following this, where we are at today is that we recommend the subdivision application for draft approval, and then a decision is sort of formulated. And so there are certain prescribed agencies where they're able to have an appeal period of 21 days to the OLT. And then sort of after this draft approval decision, we have any secondary applications. So this would include like red line amendments. So that's where the county would deem whether it's minor or major. And this is where extension requests would also come in as well. And lastly, that would be final approval. So what happens is the county staff then authorizes the plan to be registered at the land registry. So going back to Mill Run extension. So I just want to talk a bit about the subject property. So this is a phased extension of the existing Mill Run subdivision in the northern edge of the Almont settlement boundary in Mississippi Mills. The site is approximately 7.23 hectares in size. And so there are low to medium density homes south of the property, which are comprised of previous subdivision phases. And to the north and west, there are rural lands. And to the southwest, there is a already draft approved subdivision, which is the Hannon Hill subdivision. So the subdivision, slide before. So I just want to talk about the conceptual plan to the right. So basically what the subdivision is proposing is 44 single detached residential dwellings, 5 residential blocks, which then is further broken down to 26 bungalow townhomes and 28 two-story townhouses. So total of residential units is approximately 98. They're also proposing 3 blocks for open space, 2 blocks for servicing, and 1 block for stormwater management, 5 blocks for 0.3 meter reserves, and an extension of Sadler Drive and 2 new internal streets. So in terms of our review of the subdivision application, we looked at provincial, regional, and local matters. In terms of provincial, the proposed subdivision is located in the Almont settlement area, and it is to be fully serviced by municipal infrastructure. In terms of provincial, we also looked at that there was a protection of natural heritage features as the unevaluated wetland was preserved as an open space block to the northwest of the draft plan. In terms of regional analysis or Lanark County, the development does provide for an increase in housing supply, and the density proposed is consistent with the surrounding area. The development also conforms with the county's recently adopted growth management strategy. And lastly, when we looked at Mississippi Mills' conformity with their official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, it is consistent with their recently adopted official plan amendment 32 and has met the density targets within the Almont settlement area. And as well, during the subdivision review, the municipal staff have duly assessed servicing capacity levels based off their capacity allocation bylaw. So in terms of agency and public comments received, all prescribed agencies and property owners within 120 meters of the subject property were circulated, and the application notice was posted at the subject property. Updated application submissions and materials and status letters are posted on our website, and interested agencies and publics are notified when these are posted. In terms of a high level, interested agencies really did comment on stormwater management, hydrologic study, and the environmental impact. Interested members of the public commented on traffic, density, and environmental impacts. So to date, all comments have been addressed and are considered. And so in your agenda package in my technical report, you can review attachment B for a detailed summary of comments. So in terms of some unique matters we wanted to highlight for the subdivision file, was the environmental and hydrologic aspect. So during the review process, one key agency, the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, had concerns with the initial wetland removal and related wetland compensation piece. So in order to satisfy these concerns, the applicant proposed a wetland compensation plan, which included on-site and off-site wetland creation and enhancement on third-party lands, with Duck Unlimited supporting the long-term stewardship and monitoring. However, through discussions between MVCA and the applicant, there was no agreement that could be reached on an offset site, so the original compensation strategy was not feasible. So the applicant had then revised their draft plan. The next slide, sir. The applicant had then revised their draft plan to reduce wetland impacts by about 1.94 hectares through design changes to the draft plan. They also provided additional wetland retention and an overall reduction in residential units. So in the end, MVCA and the applicant did accept the final wetland compensation concept, and it included a wetland ecological offsetting plan, which includes 5 years of monitoring, annual reporting, and implementation under the Conservation Act Ontario Regulation 41-24, and which then forms the conditions of the draft approval. So in conclusion, the proposed subdivision staff recommends is appropriate for the subject lands, as it represents efficient and compatible land use. And the application has been reviewed against the Planning Act, the PPS, Lanark County Official Plan, and the Mississippi Mills Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw Amendment. And so all technical items have been reviewed by agencies and municipal staff, and all agency and public comments have been considered and are addressed through draft approval conditions. So therefore, with local council support, county staff have determined that the proposed subdivision is consistent with applicable policy and is appropriate for the subject lands.
Thank you, Corin. Any questions? Seeing none. So this just motions the application for a planned subdivision in municipality of Mississippi Mills, part of Lot 17, Concession 10, Geographic Township of Ramsey, Mississippi Valley of Mississippi Mills, County of Lanark, be given a draft approval in accordance with the decision attached to the technical report. Can I get a mover, Councillor Lowry, and seconder by Councillor Manelli? Is there any questions? Quick and easy. Oh, we got a question. Word good?
So on the wetland thing where they off-site, that's Mississippi Valley. We don't have any say in that at all. They do that.
That's correct. There's a regulation. Yeah.
Just seems they don't own the land. They're renting the land for 5 years and then it's up. It just doesn't make but they've expanded what wetlands they're keeping, right? Like that's one of the changes that happened.
That's correct. Yeah. So what happened was is near the end of the when we were, consolidating draft plan conditions, the latest amendment was the applicant did preserve the unevaluated wetland on the draft plan to the northwest. And so basically they reduced units as well, residential units, in order to cooperate with MBCA. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
That's good. How big was that? How much property was that? No, that like what that piece of wetland.
So the wetland was 3.42
was
hectares.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. No other questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to the Matheson and Rosedale one. I want to thank Corin for this. There were some questions that both Councillor Jennings and I had in the last process. We just wanted to make sure that everything was clear with our council, and yeah, so that's why we're bringing it back. So take it away.
Good evening. The second file that I'm bringing forward is the Matheson Rosedale subdivision technical report recommended for draft approval. So I'm not going to go through this again. Me explaining is longer. So through time I'll get better at this. But we can move to the next slide. So this is the subject property. So the subject property is legally described as part of Lot 20, Concession 3 in Montague Township. The property is about 23.5 hectares, so approximately 58 acres, with frontage on Matheson Drive and Rosedale Road South. And they are also proposing access off Matheson Drive as well as Rosedale Road South. So it's located in the Rosedale settlement area. And so the subject property is currently vacant and is surrounded by a mix of rural residential development, vacant rural land, and agricultural uses. So to the right is the subdivision proposal or the draft plan. So they're proposing 41 single detached residential dwellings, 3 blocks for green space, 1 block for stormwater management pond, 2 streets, and 2 road widening blocks. And so the development is to be built in 1 phase. In terms of our review for subdivision applications, we look at provincial, regional, and local matters. In terms of provincial, the proposed subdivision is located in the Rosedale settlement area, and settlement areas are to be the focus of rural growth and development, as well as there's protection of natural heritage features as there's a dedicated green space block. When we reviewed the application against Lanark County, we looked at residential development in settlement areas and the increase in housing supply. We also felt that there was a good coordination of drainage easements and infrastructure between county, township, and the applicant. When we reviewed the local official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, the proposed subdivision is in close proximity to community amenities, as well as there were adequate servicing levels for private well and septic were appropriate. And so for agency and public comments, we sort of, again, it's very statutory. We notify the property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. Application notice was again posted at the subject property, and application materials and status letters were posted on our website. And again, interested agencies and interested publics received notification of this. So basically, many agencies took an interest in commenting on the proposed subdivision, and their comments were mainly related to hydrogeological, stormwater management, drainage, and land use compatibility. And there were also several comments received from the public relating to topics such as land use compatibility, hydrogeological, conceptual stormwater management design, and traffic. So all comments received to date have been addressed and considered. And so again, for a detailed analysis of agency and public comments, you can see in the technical report attachment B, it's a chronological summary. So I wanted to bring up 2 items with the subdivision that we felt were important or unique file matters. So the first is the hydrogeological and terrain analysis. So the report evaluated private well and septic adequacy as access to safe and sufficient drinking water is essential for rural residential subdivisions. The municipal peer reviewer identified issues with nitrate concentrations and the feasibility of additional residential units. The applicant revised their well design, which then included deeper casing. And so to ensure that lower levels of nitrate contamination wouldn't happen. So basically the sort of outcome with this was that the feasibility of future ARUs will be evaluated through additional hydrogeological studies. And this will then be implemented via township site-specific zoning provisions. And then the second matter was the stormwater management design. So ARU's additional residential units. Yeah. So the stormwater management design, raised concerns about drainage, modeling, and downstream impacts. The county and township contracted municipal stormwater peer reviewer. Additionally, this township contracted a municipal drainage consultant as well. And so all stakeholders were engaged throughout the process and conducted site visits to ensure adequate drainage and the conveyance of water flow. The applicant revised their design to include a dry pond, LID measures, and a new ditch outlet. So both municipal peer reviewers are satisfied with the design. And other items, such as retaining third-party easements or grading, can be reviewed during the detailed design stage. Therefore, the applicant was satisfied. So also the one thing I want to mention was the applicant did satisfy the outstanding public comment that we received regarding flooding and drainage. And so they committed to this by providing a pond liner, and this is captured as a draft condition. So in conclusion, the proposed subdivision is appropriate for the subject lands as it represents efficient and compatible land use. It's been reviewed against the Planning Act, PPS 2024, Lanark County Official Plan, as well as the Montague Official Plan zoning bylaw. And so all technical items have also been reviewed by agencies and municipal peer reviewers. And so all agency and public comments were duly considered and addressed through updates by the applicant or draft approval conditions. And so therefore, along with local council support, county staff have determined that the proposed subdivision is applicable with policy and is appropriate for the subject land.
Any questions? Do it. I don't know if you want to. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Warden Kidd.
Deep is the casing, I wondered. Just
I can get back to you on that. Sorry, I do not have the technical specs, but
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know what the casing length was.
I think they're at least 20 now. There used to be 10. And Wib Crame's subdivision, he had to put 20s in and everybody was satisfied with the 20.
Because you had
it doubled his cost. Yeah. I think 10's the standard and they're doing 20.
Because you had nitrate in your same situation, right? Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, that's the biggest, I mean, this is new for Montague, I'm going to say too as well. I mean, I think some of you guys are old hats at this thing, but I mean, we're used to the consent and just severances and housing. And there's, there's lots of public feedback we're getting to, as well as concerns about the drainage and concerns about how that's going to look. We do have farmers that are like right beside that place. So there's concerns that we're continually listening to as well. And I commend the staff, because it's been a lot of back and forth too as well, to make sure that those they're trying to be answered. There still is apprehension. I know that there's the community there had a little meeting too as well to discuss their concerns too as well. I know council and Montague is listening very intently, because we want to make sure we're doing the right things there too as well. But it definitely is. There's questions. So I'd say we're always open to advice as we go through the process. But also, like, we want to make sure that our constituents are hearing us too as well. There's no more questions. That the application for the planned subdivision in the municipal. Oh, that's the wrong one. Suggested motion is the application for the plan of subdivision in the township of Montague, part of lot 20, concession 3, township of Montague, county of Lanark, be given draft approval to accordance with the decision attached to the technical report. Do you have a question or? Oh, sorry. Yeah. I moved by Councillor Jennings, second by Councillor Randall. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Corin, for your work on that too as well. And Mike as well, with his input too as well. First we go down to our verbal reports. So the first one would be Councillor King for the Valley Heartland.
I have a three-part update from Valley Heartland. If I can read it. Valley Heartland is participating in an initiative to establish a defense industry corridor across eastern Ontario, connecting the region's manufacturing capabilities, workforce, and strategic assets to growing defense procurement and investment. The work to develop an investment attraction strategy for the defense sector is being supported by a coalition of municipalities, including Leeds, Grenville, Brockville, Cornwall, Quinte West, Northumberland, Peterborough, and Kawartha Lakes. The corridor will connect the region's manufacturing capabilities, workforce, and strategic assets to growing defense procurement and investment. Objective is to help local companies sell into defense supply chains, secure new contracts, and create jobs, while attracting companies that will need to establish or expand an Eastern Ontario footprint to meet Canadian procurement requirements. The research and analysis supporting the initiative is being undertaken by Research FDI, which includes analysis of the local economic base and supply chains, identification of assets and companies, assessment of industry trends and investment opportunities, and ranking of priority target markets. The work will culminate in a 3-year investment attractions action plan, identifying lead generation activities for the region. Second item, two more short ones, Rural Ontario Week. Province designated September 20th to 26th as Rural Ontario Week, celebrating the people, businesses, and communities contributing to the vitality of rural Ontario. During the week, the province will open nominations for the new Rural Ontario Inspiration Awards, recognizing businesses, organizations, and individuals making a difference across rural Ontario. Valley Heartlands welcomes recommendations for local businesses and organizations for the new awards and will be submitting nominations to the province. And finally, there's a typo in the headline. It says a fee workshop. It's a free workshop, no fee, for local businesses on LinkedIn marketing. It'll be offered on September 11th, focused on helping local business and entrepreneurs use LinkedIn to attract clients and generate new business opportunities. The practical session will cover content strategy and approaches to generating leads and referrals for companies offering business-to-business services, all of which is submitted by myself.
Thanks, Councillor King. So I have a suggested motion on that one, that the report of the Valley Heartland Community Futures Development Corporation be received as information. Moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Brown. All in favor, and that's carried. We had no municipal trails. We're down to the Community Forest Subcommittee and Warden Kidd.
Yeah, we met June 25th. It was a good meeting, I thought, and we had a parcel of land that had been offered to us, 50 acres, as a donation, and there was discussion between staff what to do. It didn't have value as far as forest income, but we discussed, and I think I brought it up, that as far as our natural heritage corridor, that it could have a value and that we could say that it's part of our natural heritage corridor. And that's the way we should be looking at not only the value as a forest, but as part of that corridor going forward. So staff are going to come back with a checklist so that when people call them and say would like to donate, some of the questions that they would ask about the property and some of the information that the committee would need to make the decision whether we want to accept the property or not. That discussion was held. We had an update on the forest harvest tender update. During that discussion, we had a pretty neat discussion, and the contractors brought it up that beech trees are are getting some disease and dying. I think it's a bug, right? That gets between their bark and their like the ash and kills them. But the problem with the beech trees, when they fall, they all come up in saplings. The whole thing comes up in saplings and around the roots, and that they're very, very thick. And it's going to make regeneration of the forests difficult for other hardwoods to come in because they're going to smother them out with these little tiny saplings. And it was something I didn't know about, but something they were very concerned about in the future because they're all dying. They're just all dying. I guess it gets into a bush and the whole thing. That they're all dead. The beechwood. New business. We had some interest in a forest somewhere. From a maple syrup producer wanting to rent it, and we said to investigate some more. We have a tendering policy that we had done in 2014 or 12 or something like that with Wheelers, and a way to tender out by the tap the cost and what the revenue that we get. So that was staff were told to go ahead and investigate that. It also came up. Do you remember what it was, Kurt or Bill? What we're getting from per tap from Wheelers? It was a lot of money. It was over $1 a tap, and there's over 10,000 taps a year. Like maybe $1.50 a tap. It's like $15,000 a year in renewable revenue every year. So I thought that was interesting, and the maple forest that was being thinned out started this summer that we planned the trip in the spring for the tour, and it got too many black flies and mosquitoes for us poor politicians. So we didn't do it. We're going to do it this fall. It'll be the Steve Fournier Memorial Tour. And we're doing it on September 29th. And an email will be going out, and hopefully people can join us. This is supposed to be a very unique forest, mature maple bush that because of where it is, it can't be tapped, and we're going to be harvesting it and thinning it out. So Brian was very keyed up to show it to us. So that'll be happening on September 29th. And we all know Steve will be there.
In his own car.
Yeah.
We may have to rename it the retirement tour, maybe not the memorial one, but
revival tour.
The revival tour. Thanks, Warden Kidd, for that detailed report. Any questions on that at all, Councilor McLaren?
Yeah, what was the hours of that tour? It was 12 to 4 is what I have. Is that what it was? Okay.
It's before council, isn't it?
No, it's Tuesday.
Oh, it's on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So the suggested motion on that is that the report for the Community Forest Subcommittee be received as information, moved by Councilor McLaren, second by Councilor King, all in favor, and that's carried. We have no other ones. I will say for the business retention, I know that there's been no meeting, but it's started. Tim sent an email saying he's got 25 going. He's reached out to say that he's willing to support and help as much as possible. Did you have anything else to add to that, Warden Kidd, or that's kind of where they talked about so far? We should have one. Okay.
No, I haven't heard a thing.
Just the email that he sent out. I know they're talking about the 20. They have 25 done so far, and they're working their way towards it. So it's that's so far what I've seen so far. So, anyways, that's just a quick one there. Last one is that we get down to. It's always the fun one. Is the round table. So we'll start the horseshoe, and I guess we'll start with Lanark Islands.
Yeah. September 19th, the best fair in the county is the 175th anniversary of Middleville Fair. So there's going to be a Heritage Day. They're trying to fill the backfield with tractors and old equipment and whatnot. And
Sure, it's not on the 18th.
August. Oh, yeah, it should be the 18th. I think my email came through the 19th. It's a Saturday. And when everybody was at AIMO on that, I was on Ontario's west coast. You know where that is? Lake Huron.
Are you, anything to add, Bill, or?
Well, I will just add that the Reeve and I helped cut a ribbon for a new barbecue and a new shed at Watson's Corners Hall, and there was a good crowd of volunteers, and we all tried out the new barbecue, and it works very well. I was going to mention the McDonald's Corners Fair, but I don't know the date. I think it's the week after Middleville Fair. So other than that, we're getting invited to all candidates meetings.
So it begins. Mississippi Mills?
Okay. We'll see if I can steal the thunder here of the deputy mayor. So I think I've mentioned a few times before events that happen at Union Hall, and Union Hall has a pretty unique relationship with Lanark County, with the public works yard right there. But they do such a great job. They have done so many updates and whatnot, and one of their big fundraisers is this weekend on Sunday. And I think it's 1 to 4 or 2 to 4, maybe say 2 to 4, just in case you get there too early. But it's a blueberry tea, and you pay what you want to pay. And it's really a lovely, lovely community event. And as I say, one of the ones that they make a good amount of money on. We have something kind of exciting happening on the 5th. The 96th Annual Governor General's Lawn Bowling Tournament is actually happening in Almont. I did not know that there was a Governor General's Lawn Bowling Tournament, let alone 96 of them. So we're pretty excited about this happening. It's rather prestigious, and I think we're going to learn how to lawn bowl. That's going to be, didn't know that was going to be on our bingo card this fall, but that's happening in Almont. Everyone is absolutely welcome to join us should you like. And then the following weekend is the Almont Fair and Fiberfest. So Mississippi Mills will be very full of people and lots of exciting things going on.
I have a feeling that Councilor Manelli is going to be a shark at that lawn bowling. So
I imagine.
Yeah, he's going to pick it up real quick.
Playing all summer.
For sure, yeah. You have something else to add there too? Yeah, for sure.
And just one thing, Krista's reelected to the Roma board, so we have another connection for rural municipalities, which is great.
Congratulations.
And keep up the good work.
Perfect. Just before I go to Montague, I gotta give a shout out for Smiths Falls because they have their bike night. I think their last one coming up September 2nd, and that's a pretty cool affair. So I just like to give a shout out for them for that. So, Councilor Jennings on the Mighty Montague.
So Mighty Montague's Fire Department will have their famous pit barbecue dinner, beef and pork, on Saturday, September 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Rosedale Hall. The cost is $20 a person. Children 12 and under are free. It says pre-sale tickets are available from any of the firefighters or at the township office. Tickets will also be available at the door, and delivery orders are available for local area delivery. And to contact Chief Miles Greer for that. Thank you.
We have our 50th anniversary too as well at our new fire hall and public works building too as well. Remember the date on that one?
September 19th.
Yeah, September 19th. So our 50th anniversary for our firefighters. We have a luncheon coming in too as well, which is very exciting. So if you haven't been to our building too as well, I mean, it's a good opportunity to come out to that, check it out, and the celebration of our firefighters in the 50th year. Very, very exciting. And also Harvest Festival is coming up where we're the key municipality. So I think that's very exciting for Montague too as well. And thank you for all of that too as well.
So the Fire 50th I just found was from 12 till 2.
12 to 2, yeah. And what's the group that does it's the rescue group that does they come in and do the barbecue. They do the barbecue and everything else. It's really, really neat. So yeah, so thank you for that. Perth?
Yes, 2 major events coming up. One is the Perth Fair on Labor Day weekend. It starts Friday night, goes through Monday afternoon. And one of the biggest, most popular events is the Demolition Derby. Stands are packed for that one. And the second big event is Night Market, where the downtown is closed and vendors are in the middle of the street. And it's always tremendously well attended. And there's a Parkinson's Walk coming up, which I think is geared towards people from the whole county. I just don't have the date right now. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, Perth Fair is always a nice big one for Perth. So it's a Tay Valley.
We've got our Maple Agricultural Fair coming up this Saturday. It's always a really nice occasion. So I think Deputy Reeve Dobie's going to be there for much of the day, and I'll be there for part of the day. So if anyone can make it out, we'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Rapid Relief Team. Yeah, the Rapid Relief Team. Yeah, they're an amazing group that does that food. Thanks for checking that out for us, keeping us on. Beckwith.
Well, Harvest Festival is the 13th on a Sunday. We don't meet again, so we'll probably send out an email reminder, but we certainly use the help in the morning to get all the vendors in. Ricky's a specialist at it. He could probably run it, and Cassandra wouldn't have to show up now. But I'll find out the time and make sure that we send out an email to everybody, but we could certainly use help. It's only an hour. They all come at the same time, but we certainly need help during that hour. It makes a backup way out onto the road. So that's the major thing happening in Beckwith in September.
It's going to be a good one. Colton Place.
Thank you. This Friday, as we have been doing all summer, we have a tribute to our veterans with the Pipes Are Calling at Memorial Park, and it's a bagpiper that comes for about a half hour. So if you like bagpipes and want to support our veterans, you can come to Memorial Park at 6 p.m. Saturday night, there is at our local Legion, there's a kind of an all-day event with a bunch of bands, and they're raising funds for the food bank in Carleton Place. It's the second annual one, and they raised a bunch of money last year, and they're hoping to do bigger this year. We also have movies in the park the same evening at 8 p.m. in our Carleton Junction. And then lastly, on the 13th, there is Ukraine Fest at Riverside Park. And this has been happening now in Carleton Place. I think this is the third year. And it's always very well attended, lots of activities, and people from all over the county and the city are welcome and are encouraged to show up. And that's what's happening in Carleton Place.
I'm sure if I sit in my back deck in Montague, I'll be able to hear the bagpipes. So it's they're pretty loud. So, and Drummond with Humsey.
Nothing going forward, but I'd like to thank everybody for attending the plowing match at the McPherson's Farm on last August 15th. I think there were 6 or 7 councillors out plowing, and a good turnout for them to keep that event going. And it's good we still support that organization. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Steve. It was a fun event. It was fun to do the plowing, and I think we saw some marginal improvement from everybody from last year. So that's always good. I like it when the organizer's making fun of me a little bit because he remembered me from last year of not doing a very good job. So I'm glad there was an improvement. So I can Warden Kidd.
Yeah, just to shout out to Steve, this has been a project of his for the last 2 years to try to give it a higher profile and get us out. And thank you for doing that, Steve. And it seems to be working a little bit, but it was I enjoy going to it. It's not a full day commitment, but you get to see some people you haven't seen in a while, and it's a nice event to go to. But thank you, Steve, for doing that for us.
Yeah, it's awesome, Steve. Thanks very much. It's great to see John Jordan came out too as well, which is nice. So yeah, so it's great. It was a fun event. So that's it for that. So then we have to go down to our last thing, which is the in camera. So the PD 2026 Pavian development second crossing, Mike Dwyer. So the special motion is that the council move into in camera at 7:57 p.m. to discuss the items subject to section 239(2)(c) and K of the Municipal Act. C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And K, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to apply to any negotiations carried on or on behalf of the municipality or of a local board. More specifically, an update on the Cavian Development Second Crossing, and that Kirk Graves, CAO, Jasmine Ralph Clerk, Megan Bisson, Deputy Clerk, Mike Dwyer, Planning Manager, and Sean Dorian, the Public Director of Public Works, remain in the room. And I think we are in. Oh, sorry, I have a mover for that.